Jack. Hip foot to the out. Oh, he couldn't get three in a row, could he, Charlie? This is Charlie Cameron we're talking about. Meek, McCluggage kept them guessing. Wickedness of the bounce, Levi Ashcroft danced around Nash, and now the dance is one of celebration.
Falls to a dangerous area, they overrun it. Hipwood, Archie's kick too. Archina really hurt the Hawks. He's got three and does just that. As quick as they can, Barras out the back. Rayner scoots clear and bangs it home, Rayner. And that is the start Brisbane wanted.
Rayner threatens again. Ashcroft always threatening, always with a knack of kicking big goals.
It's the Brisbane Lions fancast back thanks to hoponbrewerytours.com.au and crispcoms.co. Our massive supporters and sponsors over the last couple of years couldn't do anything without those guys. And hey, look, anyone watching on YouTube right now, I am wearing my very own Brisbane Lions fancast merch Daryl White shirt, the DJ White bootleg shirt, which you can order through the website brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. We are back on the winners list with arguably our best performance of the year, a 33-point win against the Hawks. A lot of people are saying it's a full four-quarter effort, which we haven't seen so far in 2025. It's hard to argue with that after a couple of pretty horrible weeks. This win feels really good for a number of reasons. One, it's Hawthorn and we don't like them. Two, we haven't beaten them in 5 years. And three, it's just good to win. It is just good to win. There was plenty of spice involved. There was a resurgence from Cal Archie and Charlie Cameron in bits and pieces. It was good to have Aris Andrews back, and it was really good to have Jared Berry back, wasn't it, Pat?
Yes. I mean, which one of those am I agreeing to right at this point in time?
Just the players back at this stage, and then we'll press on.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's borderline insane that you think it's our arguably best performance. It was clearly our best performance.
Okay, well, there you go.
By a mile. So, in terms of four-quarter effort, and if you look at the goals that Hawthorn kicked in that game, it was like Zorko being an idiot and garbage umpires.
Yep.
For like most of their goals, except for like two. So if that's what happens in a game and that's what you're scored against, that's a sentence, right?
Sure.
You're doing pretty well. So, goodness me, goodness gracious me, Hawthorn are an unlikable bunch, aren't they?
Oh, yes.
They are horrendous. Horrendous. Full top to bottom of just... Except for Weddle. I like Weddle, and Weddle kept kicking the ball to Jack Payne.
He did, didn't
so
he?
He
wasn't
arguably gets even more liked in my books. So it's good.
Midfield was back. Midfield was back after 2 weeks of not getting hammered, but certainly having their colours lowered. They were back in a big way. The whole lot of them. McCluggage was huge. Neil was huge. Will Ashcroft was big. Dunkley, as always, big. It was good to have those guys back and smacked them around the contest, smacked them in clearances. That's what we know and should expect from our midfield, I think.
Yeah, it is probably a little bit much to expect it every week because, someone said, every team has a good midfield, and that's kind of true. We've seen not even like North Melbourne, what they've been able to do over the last couple of weeks. Like they brought it pretty heavily to Collingwood as well after our game until the last quarter, which was a shame that they dropped off. But heading into the game, we had a bit of news that Kadeen Coleman was pulled up a little bit sore.
Yes, we heard that on
and I think that
Thursday morning on SEN when Chris Fagan spoke to Gary and Tim.
Yes, which is probably no surprise.
No, it's
quick turnaround with a bit of travel.
Certainly not unexpected. And Oscar was still sore as well. So he did say, look, with the 5-day turnaround coming up to Essendon, it was probably in the best interest to sort of rest people that we could with the turnaround, because otherwise we would sort of just be limping into that game against the Dons on the Thursday night. So probably not the worst thing. I thought Fort played pretty all right against Lloyd Meek. And it meant that Berry could slot back in. We didn't have to deal with any sort of huge selection dramas either.
Selection headaches, yeah, because that's one of the big things. We're trying to kind of cram a lot of people into not a lot of positions. So, but yeah, Fort he did a really good job on Lloyd Meek, because O has struggled with Lloyd Meek in the past. And I mean, to me, I think that for this period of time when Big O is, obviously there's something going on with his sort of lower back, legs, soreness, I'd just be playing Fort for a stint and just giving O the best possible chance he can have a really good back end of the season. Might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, not for you and I, because we love Darcy Fort. But around the traps, people are not super convinced, but I thought he had a really good game, Darcy Fort.
Yeah,
he competed well. His tackling pressure was pretty good. I haven't got the stats up yet, but the eye test was largely pretty good for the Fortress. So I'd be inclined to have him have a good go at it for a time. Especially
coming up against Essendon, who are either going to be playing Todd Goldstein or
Old Man Gold, or Old Goldstein.
Literally whoever they pick up in the mid-season draft this week, who could be playing their first AFL game basically straight away up in Brisbane in like the shortest turnaround. So that could be what whoever our ruckman is this week is facing. So it wouldn't hurt to give Darcy Ford another week, I reckon, because it is going to be an easier job than the last couple, that's for sure. All right, the other change we had was Connor McKenna dropped and Dev Robb comes in for 7 minutes of AFL action. Brilliant.
Getting his pretty little mug on the screen.
Honestly,
that's pretty much it.
It's annoying the way that we use the subs sometimes. Especially, we did it to Marshall. And
I think a game like that is one where it's just a bit.
Yeah.
You probably it's a game that probably doesn't even necessitate a sub.
Yeah.
Which is strange. I did see something, a post about subs over like the course of, I reckon it's probably about 3 seasons, and it just sort of had like who was the first to make the sub and who was like the reactionary to make the sub and how many were injured. I was astounded with the amount of times we made the sub before our opponent in looking at that graph, because
really?
To me that doesn't seem right at all.
No.
But I don't know where I saw it. Someone will probably dig it out of the annals of time. But yeah, it was a strange one where you're looking at it going, well, we normally just sleep on our sub for a long time. It was sort of, I guess for me, I think midway through the last quarter or early in the last quarter, I was kind of hoping Dev would come on for Charlie Cameron because he looked a bit proppy, but Logan Morris got the tap on the shoulder and it was largely pointless.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Logan started really well, especially in that first quarter. 2 very instrumental goals when the game was a genuine arm wrestle at that point. But then that 70-second burst that Charlie Cameron had in the second was amazing.
Yeah, heading into the game, there were a few interesting matchups that I sort of found looking at it in terms of, so Gunston went to Payne.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that, I was licking my lips going, that's great. Like, what are they doing that for?
There was times where Gunston tried to get across to Harris. It was, but, in the same way I said last week against Melbourne, I was like, well, Harris, I hate that Melksham went to Harris and we just accepted that and didn't try and manipulate the matchup at all. It felt like we did try and do something a little bit about it today, and Harris would more often than not try and get across to Chol and did a really great job. He obviously would have been really pissed about his performance, not just last week, but the last couple of weeks. And he came out with a point to prove and had a bit of nastiness about him, Harris, as well.
I unpopularly think he's probably lucky not to do a week.
Yeah, no.
But I also think Jai Newcomb is exceptionally lucky to.
That's crazy.
Although having a $10,000 like what about the one that Eric Hipwood did last year, where he tackled someone from Melbourne, maybe Stephen May or Lever, maybe. It was no concussion, just a sling tackle, hit the head on the ground, got a week. And this one, not a week.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand where they're at with it. Is what it is. Sucked in Jai Newcomb. That was another one that I noticed, is Jai Newcomb didn't really go to Lachie Neale and kind of cause him issues that he has done over the last like probably 4 or 5 seasons, even from when Newcombe was a young pup. The writing was on the wall with him as to how good a player he can be, particularly contested in ball hunting and like doing that legitimate head-to-head whilst keeping his defensive accountability.
Yep.
He forgot all of that, and it was great because that guy is a wanker. So he's not the one as well. He's not the one. And then also like Sicily was a bit weird. Sicily was chopping and changing between multiple different opponents. And, you know, for us to, in the last couple of seasons against Hawthorn in these games, we've played so poorly, and they've had players play exceptionally well. I think last year with like Gunston, Newcombe, Sicily, like they were all really good, and they all had terrible games, and I could not be happier.
Yes, I mean...
Loved it.
Sicily, he had a few good moments, but he certainly was made to look pretty stupid by Cal Archie at times as well. And that was pointed out on the Fox broadcast by Gary Lyon. So that he's had a bit of a down season, Sicily, and, you know, that makes me fairly happy to see. Zorko, a great game in the end, but God, he had some moments, didn't he?
I don't know. This is one of those games with Zorko where you look at it and go, all right, he had a lot of kicks. He had a lot of meters gained, but he had 11 turnovers and cost about 2 or 3 goals.
Yep.
And you're like, or shots at goal, I suppose. Hawthorn couldn't kick a set shot to save himself. So,
and especially Jack Gunston.
Kind of got away with a bit here. Yeah. Jack Gunston looked like circa 2023 Jack Gunston, and that was good too. But yeah, Zorko, that was a game where he was important, but also far out. It's like on the line for me.
Yeah,
it's where I'm like, I'm sitting there going, okay, Kitty Coleman's there and Zorko's there, and it's like, for me, I don't know. I'm doing something weird with my hand here.
Yeah, I know.
But
I know what you mean.
You know, it's an unpopular opinion, but I just find meters gained is obviously, it's like an in vogue stat given Bailey Dale's 1 kilometre that he did a couple of weeks ago. We've had players do it, but you know, there were times Zorko kicked the ball 60 metres and it got marked and then sent back the other way.
Yeah.
So is that really a net gain? Answer to me, not really, but I wish he'd kicked 4 more just on principle, but 4 more meters, that is. Yes. So, yeah, Zorko had a Zorko game.
He did. Equal parts good.
He will not feature in my votes. So I can tell you that now.
Okay, fair enough. Fair shout. As I said off the top, really good to have Jared Berry back. Like, I really hope people watch that game and just appreciate how much difference he makes to this team.
He does. His disposal and some of his decision-making across the game, he looked a little bit off, but the willingness of run and, I mean, the tackles, Barry McCluggage topping, and Dunkley, you know, and Froggy, like all people you're like, love the tackle. I love what I said earlier on. Darcy Ford had more tackles than all but one Hawthorn player. So that crazy. Shows how up for the fight he was. So that's really impressive for him.
I don't know if you've seen Sam Mitchell's press conference. They had 9 players on their list that didn't lay a tackle. That's pretty gross.
His press conference wasn't up when I was kind of sieving through them last night. So, well, you kind of forgot to mention Chris Fagan's 200th game.
Yeah,
as coach.
Fantastic.
Completely didn't realize that was happening. You know, I think a lot of us will remember his first game. I remember his kind of first press conferences. You know, heading into the 2017 season, and it got me excited for football again for the first time in a way that I hadn't been since Fev. So, which is a horrible comparison, but it really did kind of. He's done so much for the club in such a larger scale sense, and to have the players and the list that we do and the lack of go home factor and all that sort of stuff that was an absolute blight on us between the Fev year and, you know, where we are in 2017. So really happy for him, and I can imagine the attention he was quite not pleased with, but probably appreciated deep down. So we've heard about this long video. And
Well, I know before every milestone game that the club sort of puts together a video montage of highlights of, the players, and famously Oscar McInerney said, please don't do that for me in the lead up to one of his milestone games last year. So they obviously tried to, flip the script and do it for Fags in the lead up to his 200th. And like whether that was a motivating factor or not, and I think it was, judging by some of the post-match interviews with the players and stuff, but you could tell we were up for the fight this week, and whether that's coming off the back of two pretty ordinary performances, Fags himself questioned the hunger in that last quarter last week, but like the pressure, the intensity, the defensive structure and acumen was like from the word go right up there and didn't seem to fade away across the whole game. In fact, it probably increased.
Absolutely. I think we started really well, and you kind of described it well, that it was a bit of an arm wrestle. I think Hawthorn were lucky with their couple of goals that they got to kind of even things up, because I believe one of them was, that first free kick was, I'm not going to go blow by blow, but your mate Ratstail was being held, I think, and at the same time Will Ashcroft was being held, and they both thought they had the free kick and it could have gone either way. Fletcher copped a little bit for his turnover leading into the second goal, but it's like literally what else can he do there?
Yep.
I don't know. So I don't put that down, who cares? Like, but then obviously you have the Zorko one to Hardwick. Now, I said off air that they're an unlikable bunch, Hawthorn, but I don't think there's one more unlikable than Blake Hardwick.
Really?
What are your thoughts on him?
I like Blake Hardwick.
You like Blake Hardwick? You like him? What do you like about him?
If he reminds me of not since he's been playing forward, but a really underrated, really good footballer / defender. Like he's their Brandon Starcevic, in the same way that like no one would sort of rate Brandon Starcevic in the same way that Lions supporters would. I can see that in Blake Hardwick, especially when he plays down back. And then he can go forward and play really well. Now, having said all that, like I do like the way he plays his football. This weekend was not endearing me to him, or Harry Morrison, who is such a nobody, but for some reason decided he was going to get all mouthy this week. Stay in your lane, Harry Morrison, of being a nobody.
Yeah, Hardwick is to me just the epitome of like fake hard man. There is no substance to him. He's like all willing to dish it out, but as soon as anything happens, he's just like chirp, 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 chirp to the umpires, and he just has a very, very distasteful, smug, annoying face.
Sure.
I don't like him. And in amongst a group of Hawthorn people that are unsavory, to me, he is right up there.
Sure.
Right up there. So, Blake Hardwick, off.
I did say before it was good to have Harris Andrews back. It was bloody good to have Noah Answorth back as well, because he had a mare last week, and he knew it, clearly, because he was right back to his best this week. Kept Nick Watson to 3/5 of piss all this week. Brilliant.
I loved Noah Answorth's game, and I'm so happy about it. And he was also robbed of Mark of the Year.
Wasn't he? So by your mate Blake Hardwick.
Yeah, by Blake Hardwick, the guy that caught the ball with his face, allegedly.
Yeah.
So, Noah was absolutely fantastic, and I could not be happier. I also love the aggro he gave to Ginnivan.
Yep.
He also did well when he was mismatched and, found himself on Gunston. He played, in my opinion, it's his best game he's ever played. I don't know that he can play a better game doing that role. I think it would be nigh on impossible. And I know that, like, Watson missed a couple of shots at goal, but, it's a little bit different when Watson's getting them at the 50-metre arc rather than slimy ones around the back. Like, he had none of that, and it was good. It was so good. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really great. Like, was it his best game ever? Potentially. Like, he's had some really good games before, but certainly that one stands out, and it was brilliant. Levi really good as well.
Yeah, Levi was great too. I think just back to Noah, like there's something that I think opposition coaches might sleep on a little bit with his ability to go into stoppage, because sometimes, Wizard was coming in. Well, the Wizard. Watson was coming in to try and make an extra number at stoppage, and Ainsworth's like, cool. I know how to do this. It's fine. A bit like the Geelong prelim last year. So Levi Ashcroft was really good. His goal was great.
Wasn't it? Like, just the poise to, sell the dummy and then, take that extra second when other players would have rushed that kick, just to take a second, get balanced and kick it on the right. Fantastic stuff. And Will was really, really good as well after having that whole midfield last week was pretty down on form. So it was really good to have those two back.
Yeah, Levi's kind of growing into the season, and I know there were quite a few people, possibly even us, just with the lineup and stuff, wondering how he would function with Coleman, and that'll be a question going forward anyway. But it was at a pretty important game. Like, it was just after Charlie Cameron had kicked his 3 goals, and it was just that other one almost kind of, it didn't ice the game because it's before half time, but it made it a really difficult, a tall order. One thing I will say, like, that Zorko turnover into the Blake Hardwick goal aside, no red time goals.
Yeah,
we locked out those quarters really well.
It's funny, because Hawthorn did. They had the sort of game that we've had so many times. Inaccuracy, a big one for them. Red time goals leaked. Those games where for some reason the defensive pressure intent is just way down, and basic skill errors. Like, we've seen that time and before. It's becoming less and less common, thankfully. But I was watching them going, God, I know how they would feel right now, because we've done it, and we've done it against Hawthorn.
Well, largely you look at it and go, the main culprit of that is just before half time. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 goals.
Yeah.
And, that's not quite the margin, but it almost is, because they just didn't really look up for it after halftime. They were there or thereabouts, but
they would have had their moments in the sheds, and then as soon as the third quarter starts and Cam Rayner just kicks that goal, that would just suck so much energy straight away. And Cam Rayner was probably lucky. If he had taken one more step, he probably would have got gold for running too far, because he brushed a couple of tackles and dismissed Sicily. It was brilliant.
Are you talking about the one at the beginning of the third quarter, or the one at the beginning of the last?
Well, I can't remember. I thought it was the beginning of the third.
Because I think the last quarter, so the one from outside 50, I think was okay, but the one
running into goal, yeah,
that was the last quarter. And
okay,
yes, he did run quite a long way, but there were plenty of times where Weddle ran basically ran 2 bars of the thing, which is, or 2 and a bit, let's call it. So slightly less than Isaac Rankin last year.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was still more than 15 metres. So I don't care. I got to say, I didn't mind Zach Bailey getting a couple of high free kicks and giving Hawthorn the taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, that was good.
And the Hawthorn fans were irate, and
bad luck.
You reap what you sow. What you sow. So sucked in. All in all, beautiful, beautiful game.
Yeah.
Beautiful bloody game.
Plenty.
Calamachi.
Plenty to enjoy about that one. Yeah. Yeah, it was good that he had a role, and that role on Sicily. And, it's been discussed when he does have a role, that's when he plays his best footy, because he has been down on form this year. But, he was clearly given a defined role this week, and that was James Sicily, and played it beautifully.
I think Sicily's willingness to be a little softy plays really well into it, given that Kalachi is, one of the true hard men of football, always willing to put his body on the line. And no situation was more kind of like typified that than when it was the 3-on-3 where the kind of dump ball came in and Sicily went to man the goal line, and Calamachi just kicked the ball 40 metres,
yep,
post height. It's like, do you not realise that you can kick the ball up, Sicily? Rocks for brains, loved it.
He also took some fantastic contested marks as well, Kalachi.
Yeah, so I think just all in all, he was, he's had some good games, but that was similarly, one of his best games. Top handful of games for sure, in my opinion. So, particularly the quality in inverted commas of opponent that he was playing on. But he worked into the game and he did extremely well.
He certainly did. All right, is there anybody else or anything else you want to talk about in this game before we get to some votes?
Just a little shout out to Gardner and Hipwood, because they obviously didn't impact the scoreboard.
They did not.
And that's okay.
Especially when Hippie's playing this backup ruck.
Yeah, well, when you look at Geelong on Thursday night.
Yep.
Shannon Neal and Jeremy Cameron kicked 11 between the two of them. Brad Close, Tyson Stengel, Brian Myers didn't really affect much of the scoreboard. Are they bad players? No. So it works both ways, you know. You'd love for your big key forwards or your big key bodies to kick a lot of goals, but when Calamachi is kicking 4 and Logan's getting 2 and Rayner's getting 2, I mean, Rayner should have kicked 4 goals, having done absolutely nothing in the first half. But I don't care.
Yep.
To be honest, that their impact was less. They're absolutely doing everything that they need to be doing for the role that they're playing. So every bit of awesome for me.
Yeah, no big.
Love the team balance.
Yep, at the moment, and Sam Day will be available for selection in the coming weeks, and he probably will play a game or two in the VFL, I would have thought. But also, we will chat about the VFL shortly. Ty Gallup had a pretty good performance over the weekend, so he might be knocking down the door as well, as I know a lot of people want him to be.
Worth noting, one of his goals was not his goal. It was erroneously accredited to him. So I think he only kicked three rather than the 4 that he was credited for. So.
That's been amended on the official website now too. All right,
that's good.
Let's get into some votes. Thanks to hop on brewerytours.com.au. Book yourself a half or a full day tour across the Gold Coast or Brisbane. God, I struggled with votes this week. I feel like I say that every week, don't I? I did have Zorko in there briefly. I did have Berry in there. I did have Andrews in there. But I've landed on 1 for McCluggage, 2 for Archie, and 3 for Will Ashcroft.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and
I've gone.
I could have made the case for so many different players. Like Neil could have been in there as well. He had a great game. Dunkley, yeah. Go.
Yeah, my votes. 1 is the same. I have Payne 1.
Yep.
Calamachi 2, and Noah Ransworth gets 3, just because he's never going to get 3 votes ever again.
Sure.
And the Wizard was unhappy. And that makes me happy.
Yeah, fair
so, yeah. So it's my decision. I can put the votes where I want to, and 3 is going to Noah Ransworth.
Jack Payne has put together 5, 6. He's put together a really good season, but especially the last 5-6 weeks, he has been outstanding. He has been really, really good. Even when we've been down, Jack Payne has been right up there. He lapsed a little bit against North and Larkey. Probably could have got away with kicking a few more goals than he did, but other than that, he's been really, really good.
I think key defense is a bit of a harsh position to play, because you can have some stinkers like Harris Andrews has had in the last a few games this season, and just because a key forward kicks a couple of goals or a goal on you doesn't mean that you've not played a great game. So, I mean, sucked in to the other teams that have to deal with Payne and Andrews.
Yeah.
What do we do? I don't know. It's really, really good, and probably not since Marcus Adams was getting kind of regular football did we have that level of, I guess, saturation in that area of the field, which is really positive. So happy with that. Gardner also, just to mention back to him, swinging back to make the extra man at the end of quarters. So that was good.
Yeah, especially because Archie's sort of been used in that role this year quite a bit. So good to have Darcy as that sort of versatility. It's going to make it, very hard for Tom Doedee to get back into that team. That's, we've been talking about forever and a day. So we'll see about that later on.
So I I don't think the umpires were kind to us in that game. I think that they called it pretty much how it should have been.
Yeah.
There was one point in time where I got annoyed because we had a non-50 not given last week, and then we had 2 non-50s not given. So it took us four to get a 50-metre penalty, and we ended up with heaps of them. So I guess they all came at once. But we had Scholl just throwing the ball on the ground, and we had kicking, and we had, and it's just like, can you please umpire the game consistently?
Nope. Impossible.
Yeah. Do you think... I'll put my tinfoil hat on here for a little bit.
Oh, lovely.
Because why not? Conspiracy. Do you think that the umpiring is obviously pretty bad at the moment? Let's not mince words here. Do you think that there might be a little bit of soft protest going on from the umpires who want more for their contribution to the game?
Maybe.
Because I'll ask you in a different way. If you were doing a really good job at your job and you wanted more pay, more whatever, and the powers, the Andrew Dillons of it all were like, but you're doing a great job, you don't need any more, would you not kind of slightly mess it up?
Yeah. Oh, look, this is some tinfoil hat gear you've got going on here, and maybe, but probably not.
You never know. No one will ever know.
No. Well, we did just see that umpire Troy Pennell just literally get done for fraud, like millions of dollars worth of fraud, and now is on the run from the cops.
Yeah, I did see something like that. I didn't really understand what was going on because I thought, like, did he fraudulently say he was an umpire and wound up on the field? Like, because I think the only context of that I saw was Rashudo saying, like, it might have cost us a premiership or something insane. And I was like, what, did like that guy that used to run on to like Wimbledon and the Ashes and shit like that, just that prankster would turn up and you're like, is that what happened? No, it wasn't what happened. But I really wanted it to be that just some random cobber turned up to umpire like a prelim final down in Adelaide Oval and was not the guy and was cooked. But
that would be funny.
Yeah, it would. But unfortunately, life, Occam's razor and all.
All right, let's have a quick chat about VFL and potential team changes. VFL team didn't necessarily have a great day. Got off to a pretty good start and then watched a lead dwindle away in front of them in the back half. As I said, Ty Gallop put together a pretty good performance with 3 goals, 1 in the end. Jimmy Tunstall was pretty good up forward. Good to have Bruce back in that team. And Tom Doedee made his comeback, but was pretty quiet.
The VFL, it happened. And I don't know, they had to travel out to Box Hill. No one wants to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that they let a lead dwindle.
Yeah.
Because they're probably thinking about how bad the drive home's going to be up the old Eastern. Terrible. Did you catch any of it? Because I unsurprisingly didn't.
I caught little bits and pieces, but not a huge amount. But I tell you what, Zane Zakostelski, another good game. He ended up with 23 touches, 16 hitouts, 8 clearances. So that's a pretty good game for him. So he's obviously been used in the ruck a little bit more now that obviously Henry Smith's out.
They have literally no one else.
So,
sorry about it.
He did get smacked in the ruck, but he had a pretty good game. So, yeah.
Hawthorn have a pretty good... Like, they have their Darcy Fort playing in the VFL, right? What's his name?
Reeves?
Yeah, because he played the week before.
Yeah, he did play the week before.
Against
did not look like he played this week. No. They had Max Ramsden as their number 1 ruck.
Well, just ignore what I said.
I believe he's an AFL listed player, Max Ramsden. Could be wrong though. So who knows who the hell even
is he going to be? Is he going to be one on your like list of players' names you like, along with like Sheldrick, Ramsden, Sheldrick?
Max Ramsden, yeah, it's fine. It's a fine name.
What's Sheldrick's first name?
Angus.
Isn't it Sam Sheldrick? No, I'm thinking of Sam Sheldon.
You are thinking of Sam Sheldon for some reason. No, Angus Sheldrick from the Swans. Yeah.
I just knew you would inexplicably know his first name.
All right. So, having said that, any team changes? Obviously, Thursday game, quick turnaround against the Bombers, who aren't going all that well as per usual, and they have come away from their last game with a couple of injuries. Langford looks like he'll miss. Zach Reed is 50-50 at this stage. Obviously, they've got no ruckman. They've got injuries all over the place, and they weren't that good to begin with. So this is a danger game because it is reeking of West Coast, Richmond, North, and Melbourne, where we may roll into this, especially at home, going and not dig in.
No, I think we'll be all right. I think I think we will smack them pretty badly. I hope we will. But
it would be nice because
I have to do a margin tip for this one.
You do.
Shit. It's gonna be an 80er, I reckon. 70er.
Oh, jeez.
Because I have to go big because I'm getting some heinous stuff wrong in the margins. Changes, no. The only change I would make, and this has got nothing to do with anything, I would rest Zorko for a game because he is old.
Mm.
And that's a good idea.
Bring in Coleman.
And I would put Gideon Coleman in.
Sure.
That's the only change. And I'd also just, Dev Rob, you don't need to be there. Put McKenna on. Fine. Dev Rob's offering nothing in the future. McKenna's probably also not offering much in the future.
Well,
but
if that's the case, if these people aren't offering much in the future, like maybe Sam Marshall is the way to go. Although,
yeah, but I think Marshall probably deserves to play a game rather than play 1/8 of a game.
Yeah. Although, just quickly, I don't.
Any changes for you?
I don't know. I mean, they might bring in Oscar, but as I said before, there's probably not a huge need to. So no, Sam Marshall didn't play VFL by the way.
I would be just, as I said, I'd be inclined to give Fort the block all the way through to the bye, just at least to just say you're rucking. It's Oscar's job to try and force his way back in the team after his injury issues.
And look, we got a pretty big game the following Friday, Adelaide Oval against the Crows. So we are going to need a fit and firing team for that one. So yeah.
I scrolled across and was like, who the hell is Williamstown? But I'm still in the VFL. Where, the Crows, you say?
Yeah.
Well, that's obviously why we're playing Williamstown, because the Crows don't have a VFL team, do they?
No. So there you go. So we'll be playing the Crows down at Adelaide over in a couple of weeks' time, but we've got another game to get through between then and now. All right, let's have a look at some tips. I got 5 this week. Serves me right. I got the Dogs wrong. I did back Richmond in and forgot to change my tip because once I saw that Lynch and Bolter were out and they were resting Nankervis, I was like, I've got to change that tip. And then by the time I remembered, it was too late. So that's on me. And also on me is I tipped the Hawks. And I was, I was strong on that last week because, well, I was feeling the emotions straight after a loss to the D's. I was like, nah, I'm tipping the Hawks. They always beat us and we were garbage today.
Well, I got 2 words for you, sucked in.
Yep. Having said that, loss against the D's doesn't look quite so bad anymore. They've won like 4 of the last 5 or 5 of the last 6 or something, the D's.
Yeah, I saw something really stupid on the AFL website that was like, the D's are harnessing 2024 Brisbane. It's like, shut up. No, you're not.
Maybe.
But shut up, Brooksy. I got 8.
Lovely.
I foolishly listened to you and tipped the Dogs instead of Geelong.
They could have won that.
I made a couple of changes. They probably should have, in all fairness. Their wayward kicking and general moron display was right there. It was a good game.
It was.
I don't think it was game of the season, but it was a good game.
It was a shootout.
Yeah.
High scoring shootout.
Yeah, and Shannon Neal, he can fang.
Yeah,
he's quick.
Yeah, for a big fella,
but he still looks like he would have trouble stringing a sentence together. No, I got 8, and I think I made some late changes to tip Melbourne and the Suns. So what I've done is I've made a rule. I don't change my tips the day of a game. I have to change it before, because if I do it the day of a game, I end up tipping Fremantle when I shouldn't, or not Fremantle when I should tip Fremantle.
Sure.
So, yes. Next round. What do we got?
Well, we've got Brisbane Essendon at the Gabba Thursday night.
Brisbane, obviously, by 70 points.
Yeah, I've gone for 41 points.
41.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
I just don't see us.
Have I influenced that at all?
Yeah, a
Were you
little
going to
bit.
do like a 20er? And
I started about 26 because we haven't been putting teams away. But let's see if we can, because our percentage is heinous in that top 8. It's really not good.
We don't need it. We're half a game. Doesn't matter. It's redundant. We don't need to be wasting our efforts on percentage when we've had the all important.
It's just a
maximum
nice
percentage
indicator, of how well we're actually going.
Hey, look, I no one loves the premiership window more than I do. Have they been doing that?
They did bring it up a couple of weeks ago on the couch, and we were out of it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think many teams would really be in it.
There
at the
were
moment.
a couple. I think the Suns and the Crows were in there, and maybe the Dogs or Collingwood, something. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, if we've learned anything, playing your best football right now is redundant.
Yeah, true.
So, okay. Collingwood and Hawthorn.
Yep. That's going to be at the MCG Friday night. Collingwood for me.
Gold Coast, obviously.
Gold Coast.
Although that said, Fremantle, I mean, do you reckon Pearce gets off?
No, he got 3 weeks.
But do you reckon he'll take the tribunal for sure?
Nah, nothing's getting overturned at the tribunal this year.
He had nothing but eyes for the ball the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
It's like this is one of the things I was saying last year. It's like not every player, like Darcy Byrne-Jones, fair enough. You're a little tough nugget. Love the way you play. You don't need to be going back with the flight of the ball against a 200 centimeter Alex Pearce coming the other way. Like, that's stupid. And you've like your action. It's Byrne-Jones's action that's cost Alex Pearce, not Alex Pearce's action. Because Alex Pearce is doing what any reasonable footballer would do. So, small players doing dumb shit is annoying, but whatever. GWS, yes, we'll have that.
Sydney, Adelaide. I'm going Adelaide on this. Sydney's been. Yeah.
I'm with you, Adelaide.
St Kilda.
What is T10 Traeger Park?
Is that TIO? That's Darwin
Springs?
or Alice Springs. Yeah, Alice Springs.
Oh, go Melbourne.
Yeah. And then the Cats to
Geelong.
make a mess of West Coast over. That means there's a couple of buys. We're entering the buy rounds officially.
Yes. The plentiful of buys, where there are too many and it goes for too long. Only really won 50-50 in that one, eh? The Swannies and the another bird war.
Yeah, I don't think that's...
all here for the bird wars.
I don't think that's a 50-50. I think Adelaide will get that done fairly comfortably.
We've also got the Magpies and the Hawks. Lots of bird games.
Yeah.
Bird off. We had the bloody West Coast and Adelaide today as well. So it was good. Good. Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Should be a comfortable 7, I reckon.
Well, there's only one way to find out, and I guess that's, this time next Sunday night. All right, let's go to a wheel.
What about the wheel? I forgot about the wheel.
Thanks to Chris Communications. It's time for the wheel. Every player that has put on a Brisbane Lion Guernsey 50 times or more is on this wheel. It gets spun, and we have to make the case for them as to whether or not they are, in fact, a better player than whoever else gets the name.
I've got to. So the wheel eventually will run out, probably in 5 years' time. Can we do another wheel that's 100 gamers, and we rank the potential for their son to be good at the sport or something like that? Some sort of hypothetical nonsense where it's like, would their son be good? If we're really talking about kids, and it's weird. So spin the wheel, please. Whose choice is it?
It is your turn because I foolishly passed on Cam Rayner last week.
Who did you wind up with?
Not Cam Rayner.
Who was it though?
I can't remember. That's how good it was.
Sorry about it.
All right. So let's see. Ooh, Sam Mays.
You can have Sam Mays, please. I have not got a nice word to say about Sam Mays.
Okay, well, he's just... Yeah, anyway, I'll save it for my argument because I've got not much to say about him. All right, which means you get Link McCarthy.
I'm happy with that. The wheel gods are turning.
Yeah.
They're starting to come around.
Yeah, we've had a couple of good
So
weeks.
you're first with Sam Mays. Have fun with that. Another feature on the old beautiful Josh Walker's
That's right, it was Josh
breakfast
Walker.
bullshit.
Look, I did think when Sam Mays got drafted, was he a top 10? Was he like a pick 7 or something? Yeah.
He was the top 10.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, this guy's got a beautiful kick. He's going to be the next Simon Black, and I think that's just what I told myself into believing, thinking that we were. I also told myself something similar about James Aish as well, because we picked him up as a top 10 pick as well. And you lie to yourself when these things happen, and you go, "What? This guy's going to be the savior. He's going to turn it all around." Sam Mays, sure, never heard of the guy, but he's obviously very good at footy, right? Right, he's very good at footy. Ripping bloke though, Sam Mays, and he's just been installed as the coach of North Adelaide in the Sandful because Jacob Surgeon just got fired, so he's now coaching those guys. And obviously his career came to a pretty abrupt end with all those concussions. So, a bit of a bad luck story in that respect. But by the time he got over to Port Adelaide, he was a Sandful player. So
Pretty cooked.
Yeah,
pretty cooked. Famous pre-game vomiter.
That's right.
As far as
Yeah,
I recall.
Yeah, but honestly, great bloke, Sammy Mays.
I've never met him, so I can't attest to his personal character. So
yeah, okay, fair enough. But yeah, look, it's going to be hard to back that up against Lincoln McCarthy.
I kind of feel a bit like the other week where you're like, I just have to play that thing of Jared Berry. And Lincoln McCarthy is, I think people have absolutely forgotten how good of a player he is.
Oh, definitely.
The fact that he has played 100 games for the Lions
50
is testament to his 50.
Yeah, this is the 50-plus wheel.
Yeah, well, he made 50-plus pretty bloody quick, if I recall.
Yeah.
Having played slightly shy of 50 games for the Cats over like 10 decades. He came in, I think he kicked 4 goals in his debut against West Coast in 2019. And you're sitting there going, holy shit, this guy is going to be an amazing foil for the tall duo of Eric and Dan McStay back then. Him and Charlie worked extremely well together. And he was really, he's kind of a bit trade bait to get Neil here, but who cares? He's amazing. It's going to be a really sad end to his career if he doesn't come back and play regular football.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if he does. But go back and look at, he kicked a few goals in the grand final in 23, and he's just, he's almost like the proto Callum Archie to what Archie has been in the last, season and a half, where you know what you're going to get out of him every time.
Yeah.
He might not be in the game all the time, but structurally, and I think he's a really good on-field leader. And, he presents very well.
And
looks like he's ready to give
another ripping bloke as well.
I'm not surprised. Again, not met him, so I can't attest to his personal character. But he looks like he's ready to give a presentation every time you see him.
He's clean-cut type of operator, isn't he?
One of my favourite moments surely has to be where he kicked that left foot.
Yep. Another one.
Boomerang in one of the finals on the siren.
Yep.
At quarter time or half time, and just celebrated with some child. It was great.
Yeah.
Heartwarming.
Yeah.
So Lincoln McCarthy in a landslide.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to disagree with you there. I really hope he does get back to playing some footy. As you said, I feel like it's more unlikely than likely, and as we know with this radical knee surgery that he's decided to undertake, it is a bit sort of desperate times to try and resurrect a career where it may not be possible.
Yeah, it's hard because he's sort of duking it out with Charlie Cameron. Loman's been a bit down, but there's always the potential for that. But Yeah, you're hoping that he does come back. I can definitely see him. He seems the type that could go into a coaching role. So hopefully, or I would like to see him at the club longer term. Just a slight aside, thinking of coaches and stuff. Craig Starcevich re-signed for a couple more years.
Great news.
Which is good news. Good. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, and I mean, not surprising, but also I'm sure AFLW teams would have been inquiring about him the last 8 years or however long it's been, every year, or any time his contract is near, expiration. I'm sure the question gets asked about Craig Starcevich because he is clearly an elite coach in the AFLW game, and I have no doubt that he would be fantastic in the men's game as well. But he's got a life that I'm sure would be one of the great ones. He spends most of his year in Switzerland or Sweden, one of those two. I always get them mixed up because his wife works over there. Comes over here, coaches an AFLW team, more likely than not to finals, goes back.
What is it about Switzerland and Sweden that you get mixed up? Is it just the SWs or is it the flags or what?
It's just the SWs, and then someone says, "Oh, I visited here, or I went there," and then I immediately forget, and I say it's one of those two. I think it's Switzerland. It
would make more. What does his wife do? Is she like a banker or some sort of like?
I've got no idea.
Money laundering lady. She's a
I would say
laundry
no.
lady of money.
No, I don't believe so.
Oh shit. Yes, they both have cross flags as well. Although one is blue and yellow, and the other one is
red and white
and red. So just a little bit of geography and flags going on here. Content you love. I did hear that he's, I think, the longest serving AFLW coach aside from Clark that we had as the wheel a few weeks ago, Matthew Clark.
Yeah, but even then, because Stas has been there since day dot, and Matthew Clark took over, I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2 seasons into Adelaide, because Beck Goddard obviously started as the Adelaide coach, and I think she won a flag in the first one, so she wouldn't have just pissed off after that. She would have had at least 2 seasons, I would have thought, and then she went over to Hawthorn. So, yeah, he's been there since the beginning.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, and great to see him sticking around for another couple of years, as we said. So that's brilliant. Nothing else really happening in Clubland other than Brandon Starcevich does have a time frame now, about a month, give or take, until he's available for selection, probably in the VFL, you'd have to think. Back in full training now, so that's good. Good step forward.
I would theorize that he is essentially doing a pre-season now.
Yep.
Because I think with a head knock, the way in which he has had, I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, just where he, you have to kind of tick off these markers as you go, and then I think he wouldn't have been able to do much of anything. It is always weird to see players back running. Like, that happened with Angus Brayshaw a couple of years ago where he gets absolutely poleaxed and then he's back running on a Monday and you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're rattling your brain around. And I understand that there's the kind of schematics of how you do it, but it seems like Starcevich had quite a lot of time of not doing anything. Yeah. So you're not sitting there. You got to keep your heart rate down and things like that. So my theory would be he'd be doing almost like a training block.
Yep.
Heading into his return. So it's good.
Another one that is going to be, believe it or not, hard to slot back in, but definitely a best 22, best 23 player. So it is good that we have got the luxury of not having to rush these guys back in.
Correct, but I think you nailed it. No, you didn't nail it. I was talking to my mum on the phone earlier on and she said, playing in the twos, you can still get injured in the twos as well. Yes. And I'm like, that's a good point. So I'd be inclined not to put Stas back through the twos because you're not getting any kind of he's not doing anything.
I think
he's risking
it'd just be match fitness, if nothing else, just match fitness.
Yeah, fair dues. Do we want to preview much of this Essendon game, or is there really anything to talk about?
No,
I think Does Devon Smith still play for Essendon, or are we going to repeat that joke from about 2 years ago on the podcast where I spoke about Essendon because they're a bunch of people that exist, and I made a lot of hashes and a lot of stuff had to be cut out because I did not know anything about them. But I think, is Darcy Parish back playing, or is his...
Now there's one for you. I did read and see somewhere before that he was sort of right to go, but I don't recall seeing him on the field anywhere. So perhaps he's not. Quick look, he didn't play on the weekend. So maybe he played in the VFL. I think he's fit. He's not on the injury list because I had a brief look before. So maybe he played VFL. I'm not going to piss away any time looking into it. So, but he hasn't been a fantastic footballer for a while. Darcy Parish, their midfield is sort of centered around the likes of, Ben Hobbs is pretty good, and Zach Merritt is absolutely fantastic. Like, he is one of my favorite footballers, Zach Merritt, and a part of that is because he is in a bit of a rubbish team and does absolutely everything he can week in, week out to try and get that club over the line. He just hasn't got enough people to go with him, but I really like the way Zach Merritt plays footy. And he has, torched us.
Let's also caveat that by saying that you also like how Blake Hardwick plays football. Yep. So are you really to be trusted in these matters?
I think most people listen. I mean, come on. Are you telling me you don't like the way Zach Merritt plays footy?
I think he tries to do too much. And I understand why.
Yeah, he has to.
But I think it's almost it's symptomatic of bad systems around him, that he is trying to do everything, and he lacks not for talent, but not in every area.
Yeah.
Jackson Pryor will be playing.
He will be.
Love that little guy.
He's taking the kickouts. Have you seen that? He's been taking kickouts.
It's good. I always said he had a good left foot.
I know, you always said it. I never believed you.
And here he is, doing it for the Dons.
Good for him.
So, good for him, I guess.
No one will no one will ever convince me that Nick Martin is a good footballer. I'll tell you that. And I know
you should spend some time talking to my brother. He loves Nick Martin.
And look, and all the numbers and everything will tell you that he is a good footballer, but no one will ever convince me that he is.
Yeah. Mason Redman, fresh off a new season of Handmaid's Tale, will be there. So that's a little in-joke for my partner and anyone else.
Sure.
Don't know, I haven't watched it, but allegedly he looks quite like the main character from that show, who is a woman.
Elizabeth Moss. Is that her name?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. Sure.
I mean, I think it's a dead ringer, to be honest, but, you know.
Other than that, Andrew McGrath has done a pretty good job on Charlie Cameron before, and, I expect him to do the same, but I don't know, maybe...
It matters less now.
Yeah, I know. It's sort of like, well, maybe he'd be more suited to going to Zach Bailey, but Zach Bailey works up the field a bit more, so that's a tough one there.
If I said to you, you got the number one draft pick, are you picking up a back pocket?
No.
Isn't back pocket where you put your kind of... I mean, I know we've got great back pockets at the Lions, but colloquially, the back pocket is where you put your shit players.
Yeah.
And Essendon went and picked up, pick one, back pocket. They could have had McCluggage, and they opted not to, so...
Yeah, look, fine by me.
Just quietly, did they get that number one pick after they finished bottom from the drug thing?
No. No, they can't.
You sure?
Yeah, they can't have, because you can't... I mean, maybe.
Because, I mean, I'm of that opinion. I'm like, that's mental if that's the case. But
I think so.
It would have been the 2016 season. It wouldn't have been the one where they got disqualified. It would have been the year after where they had three people.
Yeah, they had to bring in all these fill-ins and stuff like that. So, yeah, maybe, actually.
Which, to me, they shouldn't be getting the number one pick for finishing bottom, because the whole list is, like, on Milanotan. Get out of here. Like, no. So, but I guess, as people say when a dubious free kick is given and the person misses, They got Zach Merritt.
Andrew McGrath.
Shit. Devon Smith. They're just faceless.
Yeah, Essendon is just one of those teams. Aside from that game where everyone on our team got COVID and we had to make like 9 or 10 changes and they got us at the Gabba by 10 points. Like, Essendon is just one of those teams that don't worry me, really. It's just one of those games where, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, how dare you talk about and besmirch Carter Michaels' only AFL game by bringing it up like that. But it's a bit like the last game of the season last year where we were in a bit of a weird spot heading into finals, but they just cannot put speed on the game to be threatening. It's impossible. And maybe it's different. They've had a bit of a soft kill with Richmond. But I would wager that every single one of our players is better than theirs in a matchup, including Zach Merritt.
Yeah, probably. You're probably not wrong. I do like Nate Caddy. I think Caddy is going to be a really big player for a long time for that club and in the AFL. And I think, he may not be spoken in the same sort of grandeur as Sam Darcy moving forward, but I think Nate Caddy is a fantastic key forward. Kako, sure, he's had his moments, but I think Answorth will make sure that he doesn't do anything this week.
Yeah, I wonder if you can just... Yeah, I had nothing to say. I thought I was trying to think of something. My brain didn't come out with anything, so you can forget about this.
Well, all right, fair enough. Let's wrap things up, and we will be back next week. And I've been pretty quiet on social media this week. I'll do my best to jump back on and solicit for some questions because there has been a while since we've heard your guys' thoughts. So make sure you do chime in and engage with us. You can search for BL Fancast across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Of course, check us out YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and make sure you like and subscribe and review us and all that sort of stuff. It helps a lot. And order a shirt from brisbanelionsfancast.com.au.
Also, worth noting, it's not just on Brooksy to solicit for questions. You can question unsolicited through our Discord.
You can.
And through various private message chains. So... it's not just on us. Pick up your game, listener. Also, I do nothing, so it's a bit rich coming from me.
So you're just going to pass it on to the listeners? Yes,
I will. And I'm totally okay with doing that. YouTube comments, there's so many avenues, and they all get seen. So
they do.
I had someone ask a couple of weeks ago, is that a calculator or what's a calculator? And I said, yes. Yes, it is. It's a Casio FX82AU plus 2.
Lovely.
Which I had to get in uni when I was doing calculus. So that's why I have that.
One of the great calculators.
It is a good one. Not quite Texas Instruments, but it's pretty good. Very reliable.
All right.
Are we just going to end on the calculator talk?
Yep.
See ya.